Welcome to Explore with Adam. Today we are deep diving into one of America's most fascinating cryptids, the Mothman.
You know, it's interesting. The Mothman, he isn't just some mythical beast just lurking in the shadows.
Right.
This creature is intricately tied to a very specific time and place, 1960s West Virginia, a place already rich with folklore and a sense of the unexplained. You know, it's almost as if the setting itself was primed for a story like this to take root.
It really is. Now, you might think this deep dive begins in Point Pleasant, where most of the famous sightings occurred.
Right.
But our story actually starts a bit earlier.
Okay.
November 12th, 1966, in Clendon in West Virginia.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Picture this. A group of gravediggers are just going about their work
Mm-hmm.
when suddenly they spot something incredibly strange.
Yeah.
What they saw, they later described as a brown human being soaring through the trees.
This sighting, which is often overlooked, predates the Point Pleasant frenzy by just a few days. It suggests that the Mothman, if it was indeed a single entity, had a wider range than we might initially assume. It adds a layer of mystery to the whole thing, expanding the scope of the story beyond just one town.
So 3 days later, the story shifts to Point Pleasant, West Virginia, where two couples have an encounter that would launch the Mothman into legendary status.
Right.
Roger Scarberry and Steve Mallet were among them.
Okay.
And their account is the one that really captured the public's imagination.
What they described was a creature unlike anything they had ever seen before. 7 feet tall, with a 10-foot wingspan and these piercing red eyes.
Wow.
But it wasn't just the appearance that was unsettling, it was the creature's reported behavior.
Yeah.
Imagine this. This massive winged being, clumsy on the ground, supposedly chases their car at speeds of up to 100 miles per hour. It's like something straight out of a horror movie.
Now, I know you might be thinking, come on, a giant Mothman chasing cars. Sounds like a tall tale, right? And you wouldn't be alone in that skepticism. Initially, many people, including reporters, dismissed the whole thing as a hoax or mass hysteria.
But here's where things get interesting. Over the following days and weeks, the number of reported sightings skyrocketed. It wasn't just the initial witnesses anymore.
Right.
Volunteer firefighters, everyday citizens, people from all walks of life claim to have seen this bizarre creature.
And it's the sheer volume of reports that, that begins to make the whole thing feel more credible.
Right.
If it was just a few isolated incidents, you could chalk it up to overactive imaginations or a prank.
Yeah.
But when you have so many people with no apparent connection to each other reporting similar experiences, it becomes harder to just dismiss it all.
Exactly. The collective nature of these sightings makes the Mothman legend particularly intriguing. It wasn't just one group spreading a story, it was a shared experience rippling through the community.
Now, there's one account that always gets to me, Newell Partridge's encounter.
Yeah.
This one is truly unsettling. He starts experiencing strange things in his home, weird patterns on his TV, unexplained noises outside. Then one night, he's startled by a sound outside his house and looks out the window. What does he see? 2 glowing red eyes staring back at him.
Oh.
And to make matters worse, his dog, Bandit, disappears that same night,
Oh, no.
never to be seen again.
What's so haunting about Newell Partridge's experience is that lack of closure.
Right?
We never find out what happened to Bandit. Did the Mothman take it? Was it just a wild animal? We're left with this open question, the sense of unease, which perfectly embodies the fear of the unknown that the Mothman represents.
And then just over a year later, tragedy strikes Point Pleasant.
Oh.
On December 15th, 1967, the Silver Bridge collapses,
Yeah.
sending dozens of cars and people plunging into the icy Ohio River. 46 lives were lost that day. A truly devastating event.
Of course, we now know that the bridge collapse was due to a structural flaw, a single eye-bar that failed under the weight of traffic. But in the wake of the tragedy, people understandably searched for explanations, for meaning in such a senseless loss.
And that's where author John Keel comes into the picture.
Keel, in his 1975 book, The Mothman Prophecies, took all these seemingly disparate events, the strange sightings,
Right.
Newell Partridge's lost dog, and the bridge collapse,
Yeah.
and wove them together, suggesting that the Mothman was a harbinger of doom, a supernatural entity connected to the bridge disaster.
This is where the Mothman legend takes on a whole new dimension.
Yeah.
It goes from being a creepy creature sighting
Right.
to a potential omen of disaster, fueling even more speculation and intrigue.
And this idea of the Mothman as a harbinger of doom really captivated the public imagination, especially after the release of the 2002 film adaptation of Keel's book starring Richard Gere. It brought the legend to a whole new audience, further cementing the Mothman's image in popular culture.
The film, while fictionalized, plays on that feeling of unease, that maybe there are forces at work beyond our understanding, things we can't control or predict. It leaves you with a lingering sense of what if.
Now, while sightings have decreased since the peak of the phenomenon in the 60s, they haven't stopped entirely. Just a few years ago, in 2016, someone new to Point Pleasant, completely unaware of the legend, reported seeing a large, winged creature jumping between trees. What's fascinating about this is that it suggests the story is still alive, still evolving. It's not just a relic of the past. It's a living legend that continues to capture imaginations.
And then, of course, there's Point Pleasant itself.
Yeah.
The town has embraced its connection to the Mothman, becoming a destination for those seeking to explore the legend firsthand.
It's remarkable how a small town in West Virginia became almost synonymous with this cryptid, the Mothman Museum, with its collection of eyewitness accounts and artifacts.
Right.
The imposing 12-foot-tall metal statue of the creature overlooking the town, and the annual Mothman Festival, which draws thousands of visitors each year. It's a testament to the power of folklore, how a story, even one with unsettling origins, can become part of a community's identity and even a source of local pride.
So we've laid out the basic story of the Mothman, but what does it all mean?
Right.
What can we learn from this creature, this legend that has persisted for decades? Let's explore that further right after a quick word from our sponsors.
You know, when we dig deeper into the Mothman phenomenon, it raises some really interesting questions about why we as humans are so drawn to these stories of the unexplained. What is it about cryptids, and especially ones like the Mothman, that capture our imaginations so powerfully?
It's a great question. I think part of the answer lies in that primal fear of the unknown that we touched on earlier.
Right.
We like to believe, we have the world figured out, that we're in control.
Yeah.
But then something like the Mothman comes along, and it challenges those assumptions.
Yeah.
It reminds us that there are still mysteries out there.
Right.
Things beyond our current understanding.
Yeah.
Lurking just outside our field of vision. And honestly, that can be both terrifying and exhilarating at the same time.
Absolutely. There's a part of us, I think, that wants to believe in something bigger than ourselves.
Yeah.
Something beyond the everyday.
Right.
The Mothman, with its potential connection to disaster and the supernatural, taps into that desire perfectly. It suggests that there might be forces at work that we can't fully comprehend, forces that might even be trying to communicate with us.
That idea of the Mothman as a potential warning system is a really powerful one.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes you wonder, what if there are beings out there
Right.
watching us,
Yeah.
maybe even trying to guide us or warn us about impending danger?
It's a concept that has been explored in countless stories and myths throughout history, and it continues to resonate with us today.
It also plays into our innate need for patterns and meaning-making.
Right.
We're wired to look for connections, to try and make sense of seemingly random events. So when something as tragic and inexplicable as the Silver Bridge collapse happens, it's almost instinctive to search for an explanation,
Right.
a reason, a warning sign.
Exactly.
And the Mothman, with its eerie presence in the area leading up to the disaster, fits that need perfectly.
It's as if our brains are constantly trying to connect the dots, even if those dots might not actually be related.
Yeah.
And in the case of the Mothman, those connections create a pretty compelling, if unsettling, narrative.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's a narrative that has continued to evolve over the years.
Right.
Each new sighting, each new theory adds another layer to the legend. It's a constantly unfolding mystery, a puzzle with pieces that may never quite fit together. It's almost like a choose-your-own-adventure story for the unexplained, right?
Yeah.
You can delve into UFO theories, government conspiracies, ancient curses,
Right.
or just stick with the idea of a bizarre, cryptid creature inhabiting the Appalachian wilderness. There's a path for everyone, which is probably why the Mothman has remained such a popular figure in pop culture.
I think you've hit on something important there.
Yeah.
It's not just about the scares or the mystery itself.
Right.
It's about our relationship with the unknown, our desire to grapple with the things we don't understand. And maybe, just maybe, acknowledge that there are forces at play that we may never fully comprehend.
That's a humbling thought, isn't it?
It is.
The idea that despite all our scientific advancement and technological prowess, there are still things out there that defy explanation,
Yeah.
things that challenge our understanding of the world.
Maybe, as you said, some things are better left unexplained.
Perhaps, but that doesn't stop us from trying, from searching for answers,
Right.
from telling stories like that of the Mothman.
It's part of what makes us human, this drive to explore the unknown, to push the boundaries of our knowledge, and to find meaning in the mysteries that surround us.
Now, you mentioned John Keel earlier.
Yeah.
He's considered one of the pioneers of Mothman research, and his book really popularized the creature.
Right.
What were some of the specific theories he put forward?
Keel's work went beyond just documenting sightings. He saw the Mothman as part of a larger phenomenon, something he termed the high strangeness.
Oh, how?
He believed that the creature was not simply a physical entity,
Right.
but a manifestation of something beyond our understanding,
Right.
something that interacts with our reality in ways we can't fully grasp.
So he saw the Mothman as more than just a cryptid. It was a symbol, a representation of something much bigger and more complex.
Yeah.
It wasn't just about a creature flapping around West Virginia.
Right.
It was about questioning the nature of reality itself.
Exactly. Keel's work, while controversial, forced people to think outside the box, to consider that maybe, just maybe, our understanding of the world isn't as complete as we like to think it is.
And that brings us back to a question we posed earlier, and one that I'd love to get your take on.
Okay.
Why do you think the Mothman legend has endured for so long? What is it about this story that continues to resonate with people, even decades after the initial sighting?
I think the Mothman legend has endured for a number of reasons. First, it's a really good story.
Right.
It has all the elements of a classic folk tale. Mystery, suspense, the unknown, and a touch of tragedy.
And it's tied to a real event, the Silver Bridge collapse,
Yeah.
which adds a layer of gravity and makes the whole thing feel that much more real.
Right. The tragedy anchors the legend in a way that pure fiction could never quite achieve. But I also think it taps into something deeper, something universal. The Mothman represents the things we can't explain, the forces we can't control.
Yeah.
It embodies our fear of the unknown, but also our fascination with it.
It makes you wonder if these stories, these
Yeah.
legends of strange creatures and unexplained events serve a purpose. Maybe they're not just entertainment.
Right.
Maybe they're a way for us to process our anxieties, to make sense of a world that can often feel chaotic and unpredictable.
That's a really interesting idea. I think there's definitely something to that. These stories provide an outlet, a way for us to grapple with the unknown and explore the possibilities that lie beyond the realm of what we can easily explain.
It's like holding up a mirror to our own hopes and fears,
Yeah.
our desire to understand the world around us, and also our acceptance that there are some things we may never fully comprehend.
Precisely. And maybe that's okay.
Right.
Maybe the not knowing, the mystery, is part of what keeps us engaged, keeps us searching, keeps us telling these stories and passing them down through generations.
The Mothman then becomes more than just a creature.
Right.
It becomes a symbol, a metaphor for all the things that lie beyond our understanding.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that the world is a strange and wonderful place, full of mysteries waiting to be explored.
And sometimes those mysteries are best left unsolved, allowing our imaginations to fill in the blanks and keeping the legend alive.
So where does that leave us? What does this all mean for you, our listener, who has joined us on this deep dive into the heart of the Mothman mystery? We've explored the sightings and the theories, the cultural impact, but what does the Mothman, this enigmatic creature from the heart of Appalachia, have to say to us today? Why should a story from the 1960s still matter in our modern, technology-driven world?
That's the real heart of the matter, isn't it? I think the Mothman, like all enduring legends, acts as a mirror, reflecting our own hopes and fears.
Right.
It forces us to examine what we believe, how we make sense of the world, and how we confront the things that lie beyond our understanding.
It's a potent reminder that sometimes reality can be far stranger than fiction.
Yeah.
And perhaps the most captivating stories are those that defy easy explanation, leaving us with a sense of wonder and a thirst for more.
And on a more tangible level, the Mothman has become inextricably linked with Point Pleasant itself. It's a driver of tourism, a source of local pride, and a constant spark for conversation. It demonstrates how a legend, even one born from tragedy and uncertainty, can become a unifying force for a community, fostering connection, and even creating economic opportunities.
It's a testament to the enduring power of storytelling. The Mothman story has been told and retold,
Right.
embellished and adapted countless times, but it always retains that core element of mystery,
Yeah.
that sense of something lurking just beyond our grasp.
Mm.
It's a story that invites us to participate, to speculate, to come up with our own interpretations.
And that's precisely what makes it so captivating. It's not a static, fixed narrative.
Right.
It's a living legend, constantly evolving with each retelling, shaped by the imaginations of those who encounter it.
So, as we wrap up our deep dive into the world of the Mothman, we want to leave you with a final thought, a question to ponder. What if the Mothman wasn't just a creature, but a metaphor? A metaphor for the unseen forces that shape our lives, the mysteries that lie just beyond the edge of our perception, the things we may never fully understand. What would it mean for you if such things truly existed? And what stories would you tell about them?
That's a question worth considering. Perhaps the Mothman isn't about finding definitive answers, but about embracing the mystery, the unknown. It's about acknowledging that there are things in this world that defy easy explanation, and that perhaps the most profound truths lie in the spaces between what we know and what we can only imagine.
Thanks for joining us on this journey into the heart of the Mothman legend. We hope this deep dive has left you with a sense of wonder, a spark of curiosity, and maybe even a few chills down your spine. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep your eyes on the skies. You never know what you might see.